The couch, a knee that gave for half a second. Nobody saw it. But that's not your knees. Can your legs get you back up off that floor alone? Stay. You'll get the exercises that answer it. I'm Atlas Reed. Subscribe. You belong here. Point 1. Most men over 60 think leg strength is something you build in the gym and then forget about. Squat heavier, walk away stronger, problem solved. But nobody ever asks the question that actually determines whether those legs still work for you in the moment that counts. Can they get you back up off a bathroom floor on the first try with nobody there to help? I watched a man who'd been physically powerful his entire life go down reaching for a towel rail that wasn't there, and he never fully trusted his own legs again. He wasn't weak. He just never trained the specific kind of leg strength that catches you when everything else fails. Balance doesn't fail all at once. It fails one system at a time, quietly, and leg strength is usually the last system standing between a stumble and a fall. There's research behind every part of this, so nobody has to take it on faith. Strength balance combined training is linked to a 20 to 45% reduction in falls, and that gap between strong and fall protected is exactly where most leg strength advice quietly fails men over 60. Think of it like a house with a beautiful new coat of paint on a foundation nobody checked. Looks solid. Isn't. So if strength alone isn't the answer, what does actual leg strength training look like when the goal isn't a bigger squat number, it's a body you can trust? Point 2. The first exercise isn't glamorous, and it's not going to show up on anyone's Instagram. It's the sit to stand, standing up from a chair without using your hands. Most men haven't tested this in years. Researchers use a 30-second version of this exact movement to measure real functional leg strength in older adults. And the typical range for men in their 60s and early 70s is 12 to 19 repetitions in that half minute. That's not a workout number. That's a diagnostic number. It's used in clinical research because it correlates with how independently a man moves through actual daily life. Try it after this video. Sit in a chair, feet flat, arms crossed over your chest, and see how many clean stands you get in 30 seconds without using your hands or momentum. Most men are surprised, not because they can't do it, but because they've never had a reason to check. Here's how you build it properly. 3 sets of 10 to 15 slow, controlled stands. No hands, no rocking. Pause for 1 full second standing tall before you lower back down. The lowering phase is the part almost everyone rushes, and it's the part that matters most, because control on the way down is what your legs are actually being asked for the moment a step goes wrong. That's exercise 1. But sit to stand only trains you moving straight up and down, and almost nothing in real life happens in a straight line. So what happens when your leg strength has to work sideways or on one leg alone? Point 3. The second exercise is the staggered step up. 1 foot slightly ahead of the other on a low step or a sturdy stair, shifting your weight through a single leg the way you actually do every time you climb, get out of a car, or step off a curb without looking down first. This is where most home routines fall apart, because doing one exercise correctly once isn't the same as knowing how to progress it safely as it gets easier. How much higher the step should get, when to add load, when your balance system is ready for the next stage, and when it isn't. Get that progression wrong, and you either plateau for months or push past what your joints are ready for, which is exactly the step-by-step progression system that's still standing after 60. The complete independence system walks through. It's linked in the description below. And if you're watching on TV, there's a QR code on screen right now you can scan with your phone, because the step up alone still isn't the full picture. There's a third piece almost nobody trains, and it's the one that actually gets tested the moment a foot lands somewhere unexpected. Point 4. The third exercise is the one every single program on this list skips, because it's the hardest to explain in a 30-second clip, and the easiest to get wrong without knowing what you're building toward. It has to do with what your leg does in the half second after a stumble. Not before it, not during a clean rep in the gym, but in that split second where a foot catches wrong and your leg strength either recovers your balance or doesn't. This is the piece of leg strength that separates the 22 to 75% fall reduction seen in reactive training research, most of it done in supervised clinical settings, from ordinary strength work. That range is wide because this kind of training has to be built correctly in the right order at an intensity that matches where you're actually starting. Get it wrong, and it does nothing. Get it right, and it's the difference between catching yourself and going down. Before I give you that third exercise, do this right now, wherever you're sitting. Cross your arms over your chest and stand straight up out of your chair. No hands, no rocking forward first. Now sit back down the same way, slow, controlled, no plop. That's 1 rep. Do that for 30 seconds starting now, and count your reps. 12 to 19 puts you in the typical range if you're in your 60s or early 70s. Under that number, and you just found out something worth knowing before I tell you what to do about it. Point 5, here's exercise 3, the staggered stance reach. Stand with one foot about a half step behind the other, weight even between both legs, and reach slowly out to the side with your opposite arm, far enough that your back leg has to work to keep you from tipping, not so far that it does. 10 reaches per side, controlled, no catching yourself on furniture. This trains the exact reactive response your legs need in that half second after a stumble, because you're deliberately putting your balance right at the edge of where it wants to correct itself, in a setting where falling isn't actually possible. 3 exercises. The sit to stand builds the raw strength to get up. The staggered step up builds the single leg control to move through your day. And the staggered stance reach builds the reactive strength that catches you the one time it actually matters. None of them require a gym. None of them take more than 15 minutes 3 times a week. What they require is doing them before the day you find out the hard way which one you skipped. A man who does this work isn't training to look strong for anyone watching. He's training so that 30 years from now, the people who need him standing still find him standing. Leg strength was never about the number on a squat rack. It was always about whether your legs show up for you in the one moment you don't get to prepare for. And that's the gap between doing 3 good exercises and actually knowing you're covered, knowing your balance, your home, your reflexes, and your legs are all working from the same system instead of 3 separate guesses. Still standing after 60, the complete independent system takes these 3 exercises and builds out the full progression around them in the exact order your body actually needs it in, so you're never guessing what comes next. It's linked in the description below, and if you're watching on TV, scan the QR code on screen now. The men who wait usually aren't waiting because they don't care. They're waiting because nothing's gone wrong yet. But the research this whole system is built on is clear about one thing. Leg strength and balance decline quietly, months before anyone notices, which means the only version of starting early that actually exists is the one that happens before the fall, not after it. If this is the kind of training intelligence you want every week, subscribe. We put out videos weekly, and everyone is built for men serious about staying independent. I'm Atlas Reed. Keep doing the work.